Our final speaker is my friend and colleague, Dr. Dave Warners, and he will have his voice to add to the same theme. Dave teaches in the biology department at Calvin College. Dave is a respected scholar and teacher. In fact, in 2009, he was awarded the highest teaching award at Calvin College, the Presidential Award for Exemplary Teaching. Dave is also an advocate and a community organizer. For years, he has been challenging our community to think more carefully, more critically about how to steward the gifts and the resources that God has given us. Resources like forests and plants, trees and rivers. What I was going to say to you was that one of the things I have come to expect when I'm with Dave is, number one, I'm going to learn something. Number two, I'm going to have my views challenged. And I was going to say, number three, I'm going to be certain that I'm not the only person in the audience wearing jeans. But I show up just after Dave and I realize he's wearing khakis. He might develop a rash from this. But you're in for a treat. Dave is a terrific speaker and is very well respected at Calvin College, and I'm so glad that you will all get to hear from him tonight at a far lower rate than his students pay to hear his lectures.
I only dressed up because my wife made me dress up tonight. She's here, so sorry to have let Erin down with that one. All right, at the outset, I want to acknowledge two people with whom I get to do this work, amazing colleagues and really great friends, Gail Hefner and Mike Reiskamp. I also want to make sure that we all understand what a watershed is. A watershed is essentially an area of land that drains to a common point. And two things to note about watersheds is that what happens in the upstream area of a watershed is going to affect those who live in the downstream part of the watershed. And the second thing is, you can tell a lot about what's going on in a watershed by taking a look at the water that comes out. If that water is clean and healthy, it says that the people living in the watershed are living carefully with little impact. If that water is contaminated and full of pollutants, it tells us something else about the way people are living there. We've got some numbers here to lead us into this topic. 71% of Earth's surface is water. But only 1% of that is fresh water. 65% of the human body by weight is water, on average. And although we can go for about 3 weeks without food, we last only about 3 days without water. We are watery creatures, dependent on water, living on a planet that's very watery. All right. This last number, 24,000, I just want to put out there right now, and I'll come back to it in a few slides. So remember it. Let's zoom in on some water issues locally. This is Kent County, depicted as a digital with digital imagery, and the red colors are higher and the blue colors are lower. So you see the Grand River coming on through. Here we have Rogue River dropping down from the north, Flat River, Lowell, Thornapple River, Ada, and right here is the Plaster Creek Watershed. 58 square miles, 20% of everyone in Kent County lives in this watershed, 30% of Grand Rapids residents live in this watershed. This watershed has upstream areas that are mostly rural and suburban, and then it moves through commercial areas, and the downstream tends to be lower income neighborhoods, mostly communities of color. Calvin College is located in the watershed, and we have quite a presence with our staff, faculty, and alumni. There are 170 churches in this watershed. 28 of them are of the Reformed flavor of Christianity. We also have the Christian Reformed Church denominational offices in this watershed, which leads us to suspect that this very well may be the most Reformed watershed on planet. And yet, the stream that drains this watershed is widely known as the most contaminated waterway in West Michigan. What's going on here? What's the problem? The main problem is stormwater runoff. This is a picture of Plaster Creek down by Roosevelt Park, just before a 1-inch rainfall. And this is a picture taken from the same spot the day after that 1-inch rainfall. Not only did we have an incredible increase in volume, it's like a flash flood, but incredible amounts of sediment are being carried by that stream. And I don't know if you can see it, but there's some oily sheen down here on the bottom It's coming down the stream as well. Excess fertilizers, all sorts of bad things happen when it rains. Plaster Creek carries all this stuff out to the Grand River. This is off of Market Avenue, just south of downtown Grand Rapids. And the Grand River carries the water from Plaster Creek, as well as water from other creeks, and brings it out to Lake Michigan. This is Grand Haven, spring of 2013, when we had local flooding here in West Michigan. I would propose to you that dynamic watersheds like these are not going to be supporting flourishing cities and communities. But it's not only what we see that's a problem. Plaster Creek also carries lots of bacteria. This is a sample of Plaster Creek water, 2.5 milliliters, and it's stained so that you can see the E. coli colonies. They're the purple ones, 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's a fifth one tucked up against the side here. All right. 2.5 mils, we got 5 colonies of E. coli. You do the math, and it comes out to 200 colonies per 100 mils. The state has set a standard for safe full-body contact at 130 colonies per 100 mils. So when the creek is like this, it's got too much bacteria to safely swim in. We collected this sample just this past summer, June 2. We also collected a sample on June 12, 10 days later. The only thing that was different between those 2 dates is that we had a line of those summer thunderstorms come through. And on June 12, our sample looked like this. Every dark dot on this plate is a colony of E. coli. And here's where that number comes back. Right? When you do the math, this is 24,000 colonies per 100 mils. That's 185 times higher than the level set as safe for swimming by the state. It's quite obvious, but this is not a stream that can support a flourishing city. This stream is a health hazard to the communities through which it flows. So what we have here is God's provision for healthy living. Rain, we need water to have healthy lives, has become a problem because of the way we are living. There's too many impermeable surfaces. There's too much water that gets into this creek when it rains, and it carries too many bad things. Plaster Creek Stewards was started in 2009 to try to address some of these problems. We are a collaboration of Calvin College, working with community partners to restore health and beauty to the Plaster Creek Watershed. We see our role as helping residents to develop a new relationship with their watershed, encouraging a transition away from neglect and apathy toward tending and keeping. Our approach is very simple. We do education, we do research, and we do restoration. In order to do restoration projects, we grow a lot of plants. These are all plants that we have germinated from seed that's collected locally, native plants, local seed. We grow them up in our greenhouses. We grow lots of them. This past year, over 50,000 plants were grown. We also have been growing trees, native trees, as well as native shrubs. And then we use them in projects like this one, where it was a backyard that had a lot of sheet flow whenever it would rain, went down a culvert that I was standing on when I took this picture. So we took the lawn out, put a lot of native plants in, and now we've got a bioswale. Much more biodiversity than when it was a lawn. And all those plants are slowing the water down, allowing it to percolate in. They're soaking it up. So the water that makes it to the culvert now is of much lower volume, and it's a lot cleaner. We have a really exciting project going on right now in Alger Heights, where we take out the lawn that it grows between the sidewalk and the street, and we dish out that area, put in a bunch of cobbles, and these are called curb-cut rain gardens because we'll cut the curb right here. So when it rains and water is coming down the gutter, it will get diverted into this little detention area before it can go down the storm drains. Once it goes down the storm drains, it goes directly into Plaster Creek. And then we plant these rain gardens with native plants. In case you're worried, we work closely with the city on this. This is not just bootleg, guerrilla green infrastructure. It's all been approved. We're legit. Okay. We're doing 20 of these rain gardens in Alger Heights, and we have plans to move into other communities as well. I've been saying a lot about native plants, using native plants. Why is it? Look at the root systems on these guys. Right? Extensive root systems. They're not only there to hold the soil, but all those roots are like straws. They suck up water, and they move it out through the shoots. The red arrow on the far side over there is Kentucky bluegrass. Right? It just cannot provide the kind of environmental services that our native plants provide. Native plants are also really beautiful, and they attract native pollinators and seed eaters. If you're a botanist like me, this can be a problem. When you want to take a picture of a native plant, you get all these bugs getting in the way all the time. But no, this is really wonderful. They're like magnets. Okay, I want to leave you with a challenge. And the challenge is this: we all live in a watershed. So I challenge you to learn about your watershed and try to find ways that you can shed less water into those nearby waterways. Try to find ways to reduce your watershed footprint and help to heal the damage that's been done. This work often reminds me of a verse from Romans 8, "For the creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed." And the good news I can report from our work in Plaster Creek Watershed is that the children of God have been showing up. We've had amazing response from the community. Lots and lots of community involvement, and it keeps growing. It keeps building. The last thing I'll do is leave you with a quote from Pope Francis. It only seems fitting on a day like today. Pope Francis has written, "Reconciliation with creation must occur for us to resolve our gravest environmental challenges. Faith leaders, clergy, and lay people alike have an essential role to play in awakening a new reverence for creation." Thank you very much.